Okay, for topic three, we're going to talk about degrees, minutes, seconds, and notice that notation I have in parentheses here. So if there is ever a situation where you need partial degrees or a fraction of a degree, we can use minutes and seconds. So minutes and seconds are just smaller portions of a degree. Now, in this class, truthfully, if we ever have a partial degree, we're going to represent it with a decimal, okay? But just do know that there is another way with minutes and seconds that you can represent partial degrees, okay? This comes up much more when you're thinking like longitude and latitude, okay? But it's part of our curriculum, so let's go ahead and look at this. Okay, so here's some information that you need to know. 1 degree is split into 60 equal parts called minutes. Now separate yourself from a regular time clock. These are not those minutes and seconds, though there are some similarities. So let's go ahead and write this out. We know that 1 degree, we are told, is equal to 60 minutes. Notice the notation I use there. Now, a minute can be broken into even smaller portions called seconds. So 1 minute can be split into 60 equal parts called seconds. So 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. And again, notice the notation. Now, what we need to do, for example, 4 is complete each conversion. So what I want to do is I want to write 1 minute as a portion of a degree and 1 second as a portion of a degree. So just do know that we are converting to degrees here. So let's think about what this means. The first one is easier. My table keeps moving every time I touch it. So we have 1 degree and we want to write it as or we have 1 minute, excuse me. We have 1 minute and we want to write it as some portion of a degree. So we already know that 1 degree is equal to 60 minutes. So how can we use this to figure out how much 1 minute is? Well, we would divide both sides of this by 60. 60 divided by itself on the right just equals 1. So that tells me that 1 minute is equal to 1/60th of a degree. That's easy enough. Now, I did have a typed in degree symbol here. I'm going to erase that because it looks kind of dumb. So 1/60th of a degree. We need our degree symbol way up there. Now, when it comes to 1 second, it's a little bit harder, okay? So 1 second, how much of a degree is that? Well, we know that 1 minute equals 60 seconds. So let's start there, okay? Let's first convert seconds to some portion of a minute, and then we can go from there. So I need to divide both sides by 60. 60 divided by itself is 1. So that tells me 1 second is 1/60th of a minute. Well, darn, we've got it as minutes, but we need to convert so we get 1 second as some portion of a degree. So I'm going to rewrite this right here. I'm going to say, okay, it's 1/60th times 1 minute. And then we have to ask ourselves, do we have some conversion that relates minutes and degrees? Well, yeah, we just found that in part A. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this 1 minute with what 1 minute is in terms of degrees, which is 1/60th. So this tells me I get 1/60th times 1 minute, but 1 minute is 1/60th of a degree. So that tells me that all the way over here, 1 second through this conversion is 1/3600. So we get that 1 second is 1/3600th of a degree. So it's a teeny, 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 tiny little portion of a degree, okay? So if you need to like slow this video down or rewind it and make sure you understand that conversion, please do so. Just know that 1 minute is 1/60th of a degree and 1 second is 1/3600th of a degree, okay? Now let's use all of that to do some conversions, okay? So for example 5, it says convert each measure into decimal form, round to 4 decimal places, okay? So we're going to round to 4 decimal places, okay? So we have for part A, 45 degrees, 10 minutes, 15 seconds. Well, that 10 minutes and that 15 seconds, there's some portion of a degree. And what we want to do is just convert this to just degrees. So this 45 degrees, that's going to be like the whole number. So we know we have 45 whole degrees. And then the minutes and seconds, we want to convert to some decimal portion of a degree. Okay, so let's go back to the original problem. 45 minutes, 10 or 45 degrees, 10 minutes, 15 seconds. That's like 45 degrees plus 10 minutes plus 15 seconds. And if we can take the 10 minutes and convert it to a portion of a degree, and if we can take the 15 seconds and convert that to some portion of the degree, we'll get this 4 decimal place situation that we need. Okay, so how do we do this? I'm going to go ahead and just leave the 45 in the answer. So like we're going to keep that 45 going. So we know we have 45 degrees plus 10 minutes. Well, for each minute, we get 1/60th of a degree. And then for each second, we get 1/3600th of a degree. If we can put all of that into our calculator, it's going to convert this to just a decimal for us, okay? So write this down before I switch screens. So remember, I don't love my computer/calculator setup, but we use what we have. So let's switch screens really quick. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just keep the 45. We know the 45 is going to be the whole number. So 45 degrees plus, we had 10 minutes. Well, each of those minutes is 1/60th of a degree. Okay. And then we had 15 seconds, and each second is 1/3600th of a degree. So if we type all of this into the calculator with those plus signs and then hit enter, we're going to get our decimal. So this is 45.1708333333. So let's see what that means as far as rounding goes. Okay, so we get 45.17083333. Okay, now we want to round to 4 decimal places. So that puts us at this 8. To the right of the 8, we have a 3 that tells us to round down. So the 8 stays the same. We chop off all the 3's. So this really becomes 45.1708 degrees. And there you have it. So that's how you convert from degrees, minutes, seconds to just some decimal form of a degree. Okay, let's do one more just to make sure we're good. So we have 101 degrees, 3 minutes, 51 seconds. So we're looking for 101.4 decimal places degrees. Okay, now remember this 101 degrees, that's going to be the whole number. Okay, and then to that, we're going to add 3 minutes, and then we're going to add 51 seconds. So let's convert 3 minutes to degrees and 51 seconds to degrees. So that's going to be 101 plus 3 minutes, and for each minute, we get 1/60th of a degree. And then 51 seconds, for each second, we get 1/3600th of a degree. Type all that into your calculator. It does the hard part for you. So write that down, and then we're going to scoot over to the calculator. So we had 101 degrees, we already know that, plus we had 3 minutes. For each minute, we have 1/60th of a degree. And then we had 51 seconds, and for each second, we have 1/3600th of a degree. So we hit enter, and we get 101, which we were expecting that, 0.0641667. So let's see what that looks like. So 0.641. Make sure I remember it. Okay, so we get 101.0641667. Well, we're rounding 4 decimal places, so we're looking at the 1, that's our rounding digit. To the right, we have a 6, which tells me to round up. 1 becomes a 2, we chop everything after that off. So we get 0.642. So 101 degrees, 3 minutes, 51 seconds is really 101.0642 degrees. And that's it. Now let's do the reverse. Let's take the decimal form and convert it to degrees, minutes, seconds. Okay, so example 6 tells us to do exactly that. It says convert each into degrees, minutes, seconds form, round to the nearest second. So if that comes up, we'll deal with that. So what's happening here is we have 12 degrees. We know that we have actually 12.87 degrees, but the whole number is going to be, or like the number of degrees is going to be the number in front of the decimal, so that whole number. So we know we have 12 degrees. We need to take that 0.87 and convert it into minutes and seconds. So here's how we do that. We're going to start with 0.87 degrees, and we're going to convert that to minutes. Well, we have to remember that each degree is equal to 60 minutes. So if we have 0.87 degrees, we want to just multiply it by 60, and that'll tell us how many minutes we have. So again, we're going to be bouncing back and forth. I'm really sorry. But we have 0.87 degrees. We want to multiply that by the 60 minutes per degree. So let's see how many minutes we have. Well, we get 52.2. So that means 0.87 degrees is 52.2 minutes. Okay? So we have 52.2. So that whole number, the 52, that's how many full minutes we have. So we're going to go ahead and put that up here. And then the 0.2, we're going to convert 0.2 minutes to seconds. And we have to remember that for each minute, there's 60 seconds. So 0.2 times 60. You could probably do that one in your head, but we'll use the calculator just in case. So we know we have 0.2 minutes. We multiply that by 60. That'll convert it to seconds for us. And we get 12 seconds. So that tells me that 0.2 minutes is exactly 12 seconds. So our final answer is 12 degrees, 52 minutes, 12 seconds. Okay, let's do one more quickly just to make sure we're good. So we have 29.411 degrees. Well, the 29, that's going to be the full degrees that we have. The 0.411, we're going to convert to minutes and seconds. So 0.411 degrees, we need to convert that to minutes. Well, to do that, I just multiply by 60. For each degree, there's 60 minutes. So let's see how many of those minutes come up in 0.411 degrees. So again, we switch back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I've got 0.411 times 60. So that tells me I have 24.66 minutes. So we have 24.66 minutes. So the 24 is going to be the number of full minutes that we have. But now we need to convert the 0.66 minutes to seconds. So we take that and we multiply it by 60. So one more time, we jump over to the calculator. So we have 0.66 minutes. We want to multiply that by 60. And we get 39.6 seconds. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a smaller unit than seconds. So this is where we would have to convert, or not convert, but round to the nearest second. So we have 39.6 seconds. Is that closer to 39 seconds or 40 seconds? This is going to round to 40 seconds. So 29.411 degrees is equal to 29 degrees, 24 minutes, and 40 seconds, okay? So again, we're not really going to use this much outside of this right here, but make sure you understand those conversions, understand that there are ways to represent partial degrees, okay?